QPR extended their winless run to 5 league matches with a 1-0 loss to Leeds at Elland Road yesterday. So as usual, here are my thoughts on the match. Leeds have been a bit of a mixed bag so far. They've won 3, drawn 4 and lost 2 matches. They do seem like they're starting to pick up a little bit of steam with recent 3-0 thrashings of both Millwall and Watford, although they did lose 3-1 on Saturday to Southampton. As with all of the relegated Premier League clubs from last season, they had a very busy summer. First of all, they brought in Daniel Farke as their new manager, who was readily available to take the job after his sacking by Borussia Mönchengladbach at the end of the season. A number of players were sold. Tyler Adams went to Bournemouth for 26 million, Rodrigo to Al Rayyan for 3.5 million. But interestingly, a number of key players have gone out on loan rather than being sold. Jack Harrison's joined Everton, Sinisterra has gone to Bournemouth, and Sam Greenwood has gone to Borough. Unusually, they've actually still spent a little bit more than the player sales that they brought in. So they brought in around 31 million and they've spent 35. Joel Pirro joined from Swansea for 14 million, already looking a good signing as their top scorer. Ethan Ampadu from Chelsea for 8 million, Ilya Gruev from Werder Bremen for 6.5 million, and Glenn Kamara from Rangers for 5.8 million. The squad hasn't been completely dismantled, and like Leicester, this is a squad still packed with Premier League quality, so this was always going to be a tough match for QPR. It's now 1 win in 5 for QPR following the 3-1 thrashing at home to Coventry on Saturday, and it's starting to feel a long time since our last win away at Borough. Ainsworth made 2 key changes to the starting lineup from Coventry. Morgan Fox, of course, was replaced very early on by Jake Clark-Salter. He kept his place in the team this time round, and Jack Colback came in for Andre Dezelle, returning from his 3-game ban following his red card against Sunderland at home. We continue to set up in a similar formation. Sky Sports and BBC would tell you it's a 3-4-2-1. It's actually more like a 5-2-1-2. I was pretty disappointed to see us setting up in this way. We've been playing like this for a few games now. The system doesn't work. We get exposed down our left-hand side and the midfield is left really light. And unsurprisingly, Leeds had done exactly this homework. From the first whistle, the pressure was all on QPR, and it didn't take long for Leeds to go 1-up. On 9 minutes, QPR are passing the ball around the back. Cook plays a sideways ball out to Kakai. He plays a really poor short pass down the line to Smith. He gets intercepted and the ball zipped down to Jorginho Rutter, who attacks the exposed space that Kakai has left behind. Rutter calmly picks out Somerville, who's driving into the box, and he calmly slots the ball into the bottom left. 9 minutes in, 1-0 down. And this is no exaggeration, but it was game over from there. As soon as teams score against us, that is QPR done. We are seriously struggling to score even 1 goal, let alone 2 to try and steal the win. And the game continued in exactly that fashion because Leeds didn't have to get out of second gear. Joe Rodon nearly made it 2-0 3 minutes later with a close header from a corner. Again, Kakai letting his man go inches past the post. From there in the first half, there were very few decent chances for either side, but Leeds were well on top and controlling the pace of the game. We were continually exposed down that left-hand side because teams know that Smith and Kakai down that same wing are our weak underbelly, and it's so easily to dismantle them. I've spoken about Kakai in a lot of other videos. I'm not going to go into too much detail on him, but the fact that the club have allowed him to be a starting centre-back for us, or usually a right-back, just shows the incompetence of this club. He is nowhere near the standard required for a championship club, and we're going to be continually punished by teams the longer we play him. I still have some sympathy for Paul Smith. Not only is he not a wing-back, but he's also playing on the wrong wing. His 10 goals for Leyton Orient last season came down the left wing, and whilst I understand we have Chair there and we're not going to put him out, it sums up this club that we've gone back in to sign him and played him completely out of position, and he's getting exposed. Leeds had a couple more efforts in the first half. Very little to say about the rest of the half, other than the fact that Sam Field was booked on the 28th minute and now misses Blackburn at home on Saturday for his 5th booking of the season. 2 changes were made at half-time. 35-year-old Adoma for Paul Smith and Andre Dezelle for Colback, who, having not played football for 3 games, came off with an injury. The mismanagement that these 2 substitutions scream. The second half continued very much like the first. Leeds in control. In fact, QPR didn't have their first effort on target until the 66th minute. Even that was a 25-yard, low-driven shot by Elias Chair, which was easily picked up by the keeper. In fact, QPR had just 2 shots on target in the entire match. Leeds themselves only had 3, but they had 16 efforts in total to QPR's 5. And the lack of efforts only makes you more critical of the other things that we got wrong. The poor crossing into the box, which we saw against Coventry on Saturday. Multiple foul throws from throw-ins and players not showing for the ball. Begovic time-wasting on his goal kicks when you're 1-0 down. The whole setup and style of this team is just totally wrong. Leeds continued to have efforts throughout the half. Bamford on the break, his shot was saved, and Dan James's deflected shot from the following corner. We made 3 more substitutions as the half went on. Kakai was eventually put out of his misery, with Jimmy Dunn coming on to replace him. Colley came on for Armstrong in the 78th minute, and most frustratingly, Steve Cook came off on 84 minutes for Lakesh, with him coming off with an injury himself. That's our 2 starting centre-backs now injured. We could have nicked a point right at the end. Chair pumped the ball forward. Collie managed to get it across to Dykes, just in the centre of the box, and he nearly poked it in with his toe, but hit the keeper in his chest. If the poor display wasn't enough, on the 93rd minute, Leeds played the ball over the top to Bamford, who is running through to the keeper one-on-one. Begovic comes out to Bamford. Bamford takes a touch, goes around Begovic, and dives to the floor. And what happens there? Begovic gets red carded. Watching the replay, it is absurd. It is such a dive. It's surely going to be overturned because there's no contact there at all, so I assume that Begovic is going to be back for Saturday's game. But so poor from Bamford. He has previous on this, and so it left us with 10 men and the ridiculous sight of Lyndon Dykes in goal. A few minutes later, the match ended 1-0 Leeds. Now, as I said at the start of the video, this was always going to be a tough ask going to Leeds. A squad packed with Premier League quality, they've dished out a few thrashings, and that's ultimately what I expected for QPR. Every match, Ainsworth is setting us up for failure. The system doesn't get the best out of what is admittedly a limited squad, but he is not changing anything. It's just swapping in different players in the same positions. The formation needs to change. There is some quality in this squad, but it's not being utilised. In the absence of strikers that score, we need to be getting our best players on the ball. That includes Chair, that includes Willock, who once again has completely disappeared from the squad after playing on Saturday. That is the only way we're going to be able to get something from games. My gut tells me that if Ainsworth can't get something from the Blackburn game at home on Saturday, that the owners will step in and make a change. But my head tells me that they're not going to pay off another manager, and they're certainly not going to pay another one to come if our FFP restrictions are as tight as they supposedly are. This can't continue to go on. He has to change something on Saturday, and I don't just mean players. We need to see a new formation. We need to attack the game because it's getting quite depressing now. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.